Okay. Hello, my name is Kendrick Eaton. I am an administrative analyst with the County of San Diego Department of Child Support Services. And this is a quick overview and run through of our digital marketing grant activities, interventions 1 through 3. Just really quickly, we'll go over the agenda as an overview of the interventions. We'll talk about the background, what the goals of our project were, the structure of the project, the timeline of the project, what our results were, what some of our big lessons were, and what our next steps are. So to set the stage, our business intelligence unit, around the time that we were applying for this grant and the grant became available, noticed that there was a disparity between Spanish-speaking single-parent households in the county and what was self-reported in our child support system. In California, that's CSE. San Diego County has about an average of 42% of single-parent households that identify Spanish as their first language, whereas only 10% of our case participants self-reported that Spanish was the primary language in their household. We had attempted before the grant a couple of different strategies. So the first was a program called In Your Neighborhood, where the Department of Child Support Services partnered with the local library system. And we would send 1 or 2 caseworkers out into neighborhoods where there was a high concentration of cases to make it easier on case participants so they could actually come to us. And the goal there was to get more engagement and more people involved in their cases because it would be more convenient for them to attend. We also had done email campaigns through a service called Gov Delivery, but that was only meant for current case participants. So this was more meant to send out updates to people who maybe owed on their payments or there was an update to their case. And similar to In Your Neighborhood, this was just done to sort of engage people more and keep them informed about their case and give them more options. When we started with the grant, we had several key goals in mind. First of all, we aim to increase participation of Spanish-speaking case participants across our caseload, cultivate an increased awareness and an interest in the child support program among Spanish-speaking case participants, but also, overall. Provide more immediate access to customer service, sort of enhance that user experience through the use of a live chat system. And similar to the live chat system, we wanted to create more accessible two-way digital communication. So people have questions, we can give them answers much quicker than we could if they had to go through the whole process of calling a case manager, visiting the office. So we wanted to create a really fast two-way digital communication between us and the customer. I mentioned live chat, but also social media. This is kind of our project structure timeline. This kind of highlights the big events and the big landmarks. So in 2018 to 2019, late 2018 to sort of early 2019 was our pre-intervention period. Then between April to June of 2019, we ran our first intervention, which was followed by an evaluation period. Then we had our second intervention that started in October of 2019, ran to December, then followed by our evaluation period. Then we had our third intervention in April of 2020, which ran to June of 2020. That was our third intervention. And then that was followed by the final evaluation period. And then you can see which intervention was being run during that time. So we started off with social media, then we moved to email marketing, and finally live chat. But we'll talk about each of those in detail, excuse me, in just a second. The third intervention timeline did get a bit thrown off due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the department was able to just, in cooperation with the Office of Child Support Enforcement, we were able to, work around that as part of our intervention. So our first intervention was using social media. Before this, child support really had no social media presence at all. It wasn't something that we had really looked at doing or explored. So when we set out with this, we had a driving research question. What is the relationship between the San Diego Department of Child Support Services social media advertising efforts, increasing traffic to the San Diego Child Support website, and child support case enrollment in the Spanish-speaking population? Like we saw in the timeline, we launched our first social media page, which was a Facebook page, in April of 2018. And we distributed 227 different Facebook posts, and we ran 3 different paid advertisements. So note that there is a difference there. Facebook posts are free. Paid advertisements are actually targeted to a specific audience. The audience that we targeted these to were single parents who reside in San Diego. So it's very broad. We also created a YouTube video library for quick reference for parents, and those videos could be used, pardon me, those videos could be used in any variety of social media settings. So a lot of it was instructional videos, videos that explain various processes of the child support case lifespan. And we also asked the San Diego County Office of Communications to use their Twitter page to send out 13 tweets that talked about what the Department of Child Support Services was up to, what we were doing. And so we used that channel as another means of reaching people. So what were the results? One thing to mention right off the bat about this is that cause and effect isn't really the right way to look at this, because we didn't quite have the tools to look at a direct cause and effect. So what we have to look at is trends. So inbound traffic, Spanish-speaking visitors increased 23% during the intervention period compared to the 3 months prior. Outbound traffic, so Facebook and YouTube, were the top 2 destinations that a customer would head to when they were exiting our website. However, in the caseload, there was no noticeable change found. And like I mentioned, there is a bit of a challenge in connecting caseload to these trends, simply because we lacked certain tools that would have enabled us to track that. Our second intervention was email marketing. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we had sent emails to customers previously, but these were existing customers. Our intention here was to send to people who were not current customers. Instead, we were going to send to just parents of children who are enrolled in schools who may or may not be aware of the services that the department has to offer. So our research question for this intervention is, do email campaigns have a positive impact on increasing traffic to the SDDCSS website and child support engagement in the Spanish-speaking population? The way we went about this was we worked with our finance team to procure a contract with a local company, actually called Peach Jar, and they have access to email lists for schools all across the country in a bunch of different districts, and that includes most of San Diego County's districts. What we sent out are 8 PDF e-flyers. So the way this works is that every week, every month, I believe it's dependent on what the distributor chooses or what the school chooses. But periodically, Peach Jar will send out a bunch of flyers to parents that are on their email lists, and these are parents of children who are enrolled in schools, throughout San Diego County. So we did 8 of these flyers. 6 were paid and 2 were free. Given that we are a government agency, we were entitled to one free flyer a month, so we took advantage of that. So what were the results? Well, we received an approval rate of 84% from the schools that we elected to distribute these flyers to. The approval process here kind of varied from place to place, so it wasn't always the same process for every school. Some schools approved it at the district level, some approved it at the school level. So it was kind of hard for us to predict how we were going to, if we were going to even get approved. Some schools were very strict and said, no, we don't want anything that's not an after-school activity or anything for the students. Some districts would say the same thing. No, it doesn't quite fit with what we want distributed to the parents. So we didn't get approved for some of those. However, overwhelmingly, our flyers got approved. We had an 84% approval rate, like it says there at the top. It took on average about 4 days for a school to approve, or a district to approve. I should clarify. It took 4 days for the approval process to be complete. And it took about another 4 days for the parents to actually open and look at the emails. Across the intervention, we managed to send out 330,987 emails. And they had an open rate of about 34%, which is pretty good as compared to even emails that we had sent out to our existing customers. We received 22% more Spanish-speaking visitors compared to the previous year. So this was a pretty, significant increase, similar to what we saw in the social media intervention. Our findings were that there was no noticeable change found in caseload. Again, that was kind of a tricky conversion to figure out. But we actually found that schools with lower percentages of ESL learners and free or reduced price meal participants resulted in higher open rates. So it was an interesting insight that we got from this intervention. Our third and final intervention was the implementation of a live chat feature on our website, on our public-facing website. Some of you have probably seen this on a bank or an insurance company or any number of customer service-based industries. They've started to use this as a way of fielding quick questions instead of using phones or emails. And during the early days of the pandemic, this became pretty important, and it was pretty vital that we have more tools like this available to us. So our research questions for this third intervention were, will the live chat Facebook campaign have a desired effect of increasing traffic to the website? Did the live chat Facebook campaign increase live chat usage? And are there any groups that show more interest towards using live chat? Would a tailored advertisement increase live chat usage? So let me explain why it says live chat Facebook campaign here. What we had to kind of do is work backwards, since the live chat tool we ended up with didn't quite give us a lot of demographic insights, and also given certain confidentiality laws and to avoid getting into kind of a legal murky water, kind of like a gray zone legally, there wasn't a lot that we could collect from people who engaged with us through this live chat tool. Simply because it's not secure enough, certain case information, it can't be discussed outside of very specific platforms or in very specific ways. So we sort of had to use Facebook Ad Manager to create ad campaigns that then used tracking codes to bring people to our site, and then we could use that as a conversion to find out how many people ended up using the live chat feature. So when we launched the feature on our homepage, we launched it simultaneously on English and Spanish. And to build on what I just mentioned, we designed a set of 2 paid ad campaigns on Facebook to promote the launch of the feature and increase awareness about the feature, usage of the feature, and just overall website traffic. The first ad, our goal was, this was kind of a probe. So we used this first ad as a probe to find the customer segment that would prefer to use the live chat feature the most. Then with the second ad, we customized an advertisement for that segment to see if we could drive even more usage and website traffic via that ad. The Spanish site, as a result, received 769 more visitors to the website through the 2 paid ads. Average chat usage on the whole was higher than during the non-campaign period. Interestingly, and kind of contrary to what some of us had hypothesized, 45 years old and above as an age group showed the most interest towards using the live chat feature. And finally, this was an important insight overall, just for future use of Facebook as well, is that a tailored ad generated roughly double the traffic to the Spanish homepage than just than the ad that we kind of just used to probe out what customer segment we wanted to engage. So those were our 3 interventions. Obviously, there was a ton of lessons that we learned from that, a lot of best practices. But what were kind of our big takeaways? What were the things that we feel are worth passing on to another agency that would want to pursue a similar strategy? Well, first of all, social media campaigns generate a large amount of traffic to the website, and they're very effective at increasing public awareness for your child support programs. If, like I mentioned, once you kind of figure out how to use these tools, how to use things like Facebook Ad Manager, or in the case of our email vendor, how to use something like PeachJar, and you learn how to use them effectively, they are very, very efficient at increasing awareness and generating large amounts of traffic. But keeping visitors engaged with your website is very challenging. What we noticed in kind of like the post-intervention evaluation is that the bounce rate for visitors to the website that came there through our digital marketing efforts was very high. So a lot of people, what I mean by bounce rate is that people would be brought to the website by following a link in one of our digital marketing efforts, and they would just immediately turn around and leave. It was very high. It was in the 70s and 80s. So choosing effective landing pages and redesigning your websites to create kind of simpler, easier to navigate pages, more user-friendly pages can really mitigate this issue. And we'll talk about how we applied that in just a second. Also, centralizing all digital marketing efforts, your channels, and findings is really key to developing speedy solutions for the underlying issue. So when we initially started, a big challenge we faced is that our Facebook page was initially, I think they wanted it to be held at a county level instead of a department level. And that led to a lot of missing information, and we were constantly having to ask for metrics. When we finally got control over it, it became a lot easier, because then we were able to really centralize all of our efforts. It was all held at the department level. All of our channels, we subsequently have expanded onto other channels, other sites, and that's all centralized. That's all held here. So it's easy for us to get information. It's easy for us to make changes. It's easy for us to do testing. So try your best to centralize all your digital marketing efforts to the extent that your county or your city allows. Last but not least, employees must be engaged at all levels. They must really be engaged at all levels to help drive digital marketing efforts. A large part of getting people on these sites or getting them to engage is just sort of this grassroots level engagement of telling them about it, of the caseworker informing them that, hey, you have these different options. You can engage with us through these different ways. So employee engagement is an absolute must. Once all of our interventions and their evaluation periods were complete, we took a really hard look at a lot of our practices. And that was a big, valuable part of doing this grant. We learned so much about best practices and how to kind of apply this analytical lens to everything that we did, not just activities in the scope of the grant. We applied it to everything. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, having a simplified, more user-friendly website is important. So we immediately launched into a massive website redesign. It took a long time to complete, but it was well worth it, because based off of what we had seen about bounce rate and how people were behaving on the website, it was very much needed. And those insights weren't readily obvious to us because we hadn't really had this experience with the grant. So that was our first big post-grant project, was a total website redesign. We also set up a social media calendar. Like I mentioned, we had learned how to use Facebook Ad Manager a lot more effectively. And kind of taking the lessons we learned from Facebook, we opened our own Twitter account as well. And through creating this social media calendar, we were able to establish at the beginning of every month what we were going to, how we were going to post, what we were going to advertise throughout the month. That was an important lesson that we learned through the grant, is just kind of knowing what you want to do ahead of time, but also having enough room to be flexible for things like holidays or last minute changes. We started using Peachjar for email flyers every month. We've very consistently, with rare exceptions, sent out a flyer every month. We've refined our process for doing that. We've gotten better at geolocating. We've gotten better at designing the flyers themselves. We've met with really, really good success doing that. And again, that was all lessons learned from the grant. Using lessons from what we learned in live chat, we now have Zoom meetings available for customers. So a customer who visits our website can request to meet via Zoom, and live chat is still there, of course. We've run a variety of webinars on our Facebook page. I believe some of those have been done by our partners as well, and we have certainly run our own. Improved geolocation, like I mentioned about Peachjar, we've just really gotten a better grasp of where our customers are inside of the county. And overall, we've just adopted a more agile structure where we're able to check things quickly. Like I mentioned about centralizing our findings, we're able to really check results quickly and adjust accordingly. So now that we've learned a lot about gathering data and making informed decisions, we're a lot faster at it now. So as changes happen, as results come in, as we need to rapidly pivot and react to things, we're a lot more agile and we're a lot more able to address those types of changes. We're able to anticipate and react a lot quicker. If you have any questions, you can contact any of the people listed here. You can contact our Deputy Director, Jennifer Hellerud, myself, Kendrick Eaton, or our statistician, Chieko Seto. We're all available and more than happy to answer any questions you have. We all put a lot of work into this. Some of the results were maybe not what we expected or what we wanted, but it was certainly all extremely valuable. And it's our hope that, anyone who's interested in doing something like this, or anyone who has any questions, it's our hope that we can really pass on what we've learned to you. So please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thanks very much. And that's the end of our presentation.